Welcome back to the Yamaha Whitetail Diaries with Wade Middleton. Our Yamaha Riders event is well underway, and we shift our focus now to Gordon Whittington from North American Whitetail.
Gordon is one of the most well-known whitetail authorities, riders, guys that, I would call a professional whitetail hunter out there. I mean, he's done this for decades. His family's been involved in it. He's traveled all over. He's talked to no telling how many people and shared stories back and forth. So to have him come into camp and join us for the Yamaha Riders event was really special.
I get to go on a lot of deer hunts. I guess I've hunted 40 states and provinces in the last 30-something years at North American Whitetail, and from Finland to New Zealand, all over North America, and you find yourself in a lot of different camps and hunting situations. I always love to come to Texas and to a deer camp here because there's always a real laid-back feel to it. I mean, the weather's almost always pleasant. You see a lot of wildlife. The food is always great. The company is great, and whether you shoot a deer or not, that's kind of a bonus.
We started Gordon out on his hunt with the weather coming in a large box blind. Probably almost, a good 10 or 12 miles from the camp on another piece of property we had. We had a few shots of a couple pretty good deer coming in, but they weren't showing up. I mean, we went over there, they didn't show up. Felt like it was time to make a move and go and try to find, another location that's really set up better. And as I began to explain to Gordon, I've got some scouting camera photos of some pretty good deer coming in there, but make no bones about it, this is a new piece of property. We've only had it for a couple of years. We don't even know necessarily what all is on this end of the ranch. We haven't spent a ton of time hunting over here, so be prepared for the unexpected.
Well, we've got a little setup right here. As you can see, it's kind of impromptu, but the deer don't know to look up here on this ridge because nobody's been hunting up here. So we have the element of surprise, kind of counteracting the fact that we're a little bit exposed, but we know deer feed down in this flat. In fact, there's one just came out right there. Looked like a young buck. They're starting to move early. Looks like might be a spike. Well, it's a little yearling buck. Just came out to feed out in this flat. That's a great sign. It's way before sundown. So that's a very good sign that these deer are undisturbed back in here. Hopefully some of our bucks will show up.
It just kept getting later and later in the day, but the rain had stopped and we felt like it was going to be a good afternoon, possibly to see a mature buck. It just felt like one of those times and one of those places where you could see one pop out at any moment. And sure enough, right before the end of shooting light and the end of camera light, we did have a really good buck come in.
As hunters, we evolve. We go through lots of different stages, and there's times in our life where we want to shoot the biggest deer in our life and or the most. But Gordon is one of those guys that truly impresses me about wanting to shoot the most mature deer. He wants to shoot the deer he thinks the smartest, most wiliest, oldest deer in that area. He wants to shoot a deer that's going to be well past what most people would call prime. And he's not necessarily going to be concerned if it's got the biggest set of antlers or not. It's about the age class when it comes to hunting with Gordon Whittington.
Okay, let's do it. Shot felt good. Had to kind of shoot through a little bit of a hole there, but that's a big mature buck. Feel like I put a good hit on him. Had a pretty good body angle. But I lost sight of him as soon as the gun flare. So, I'm not going to get in any big hurry to go over there. Just going to give it a few minutes, take up the trail, see what we got. That's a nice big mature buck.
You know, you're always tempted to go right to your deer, especially if you feel like you've probably made a pretty good shot. And at the time I shot, I had no reason to think I hadn't made a good hit on the deer. I felt like he was hit. I felt like I had a good view of him. I didn't feel like I had any brush or any grass or anything between me and him. I didn't have any reason to think that the shot was off the mark. And so I thought, well, let's gather our stuff up. Let's go over here right at dark. It was getting late anyway. We gathered our stuff up. We go over there and we start looking and immediately find blood, which is of course what we expected. But within a few steps I realized something wasn't quite right. We were starting to see some food particles in with the blood. That can only mean one thing normally. You have hit the deer behind the diaphragm and he is gut shot, which is never a happy moment of realization for a hunter because you know it's going to be a tough trail. That was a classic example of needing to stop right there, gather your wits, realize that it's not going to rain overnight, and decide to come back in the morning and really take up the trail and do it right.